Recording on Thursday, October 10th, 2024 at 10:03 a.m. Eastern time. And, for everybody watching this, and it's going to be a bit of a lofty comparison, but I feel you deserve it. Is At the CIA they have those stars on the wall, and it's for those who served in silence. So they're doing black ops shit, and but it's all classified. So it's just the ultimate. It's like they did so much, and you don't even know who they are. You don't know their names. It's classified to the end of time. Everybody watching this show, AJ is your served in silence. He has gotten me more of the huge guests I've had, and I mean, just truly brings them to my doorstep, and I just have to give them a date and time. And I don't think you get enough credit for that, but this is you're the workhorse behind the scenes, and so for everybody, this you are the CIA star for my podcast. So I mean, I hope everybody knows, like, you're the man. You're absolutely the
I
fucking
appreciate
man. I
that.
appreciate it. But yeah, I'm gonna post the live link. Introduce yourself, man.
Well, look, brother Tommy, great to be here. I am silent no longer, and I am, Irish Catholic from Philadelphia, so I'm the kind that never shuts up. So, you know, uh, my new book, it's my second book. So when I stepped out from behind the curtain 2 years ago for my first book, The Woking Dead, I think it dawned on people that, you know, there is a puppet master. Yes, I do consider myself the center of the MAGA cinematic universe. There was a we can't always talk about the operations as they're happening. I can do a look back after they already happened. And I would say the most important one in the last 12 months was the fact that through most of 2023, yours truly, AJ Rice, um, was working with RFK Jr., running media for the Super PAC, working with Vivek Ramaswamy, working directly with the campaign, running his surrogates. And although I have worked for America First PAC in the past, that was in the 2020 election, we've been working with Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr.'s publishing house, Winning Team Publishing, for over a year now. Sergio Gore, who's a genius, old friend of mine, used to work for Rand Paul. But that's Carrie Lake, MTG, Charlie Kirk, Judge Jeanine Pirro, and I could go on and on and on. Peter Navarro, we just did. So yeah, we don't like to brag too much because we don't want the deep state to whiff that that there is a central nuclei clearinghouse theme to all of this. And sometimes I can't brag about it while it's happening because you
Yeah.
don't want to lose clients. You can't exactly be the general manager for both the Red Sox and Yankees at the same time. But
Yeah.
somehow here at Publius PR, we have figured out how to do that. And some of the reason is, might I add, that a lot of the PR firms, um, especially the ones here in Swamp Central, because I'm in Washington, D.C., in the bunker down here, the subterranean sewers with Splinter and the Four Turtles. I will tell you that they kind of walked away when the OG came down the Golden Escalator almost 10 years ago now. I can't even believe that. And,
Yeah.
I've known Trump, and we could get into some of my background prior to this, for a long time. We've set up a lot of interviews with him when he was promoting The Apprentice and some of his books. Um, a lot of the PR firms decided to throw in with either never Trumper movements, or they decided to throw in with Hillary. See how far that got them. They threw in with Biden. So it kind of cleared the field. Um, and I appreciate it because there's no going back now. You're not putting this genie back in the bottle. And, I am pretty much running most of it. We like to say here that all roads lead to Publius PR. And if we don't have you now, we probably already did, or we will soon. So, shows like this are integral to that. We provide you with a lot of guests. You're
Hmm.
not alone. And, the great thing about the First Amendment is that, at least for now, and you and I may end up in the gulag soon if things
Hmm.
don't go right, but, there are a lot of venues like this where we can reach more people here than putting people on CNN,
Hmm.
especially our people. So there is this sort of space that we've carved out, and you have to have patriots like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and people sort of clearing the digital space, the inventors of Parler and Rumble and Getter. You have to clear that space, but you have to have people willing to host shows like you. You have to have people writing books, people that have messages that are trying to get out there. And we here, not just me, but Drew Allen and a lot of my team, we act as the sort of connective tissue bringing everybody together. So I appreciate the shout out for sure.
Absolutely. No, I really, I mean, and that's it's to me, I think it's especially impressive because I mean, as someone that started this above my parents' garage, and just the very mechanism of building up a Rolodex or building the ability to reach out to people is it's like the Warren Buffett quote. You can't have a baby in a month by getting 9 women pregnant. It just takes 9 months. Some things just take time, no matter how
That's
much
true.
work you put it. It's just a thing.
That's true.
It just is a thing. And I found that through this show. It's like, yeah, man, some people you're not going to get in touch with until you have 100 episodes, 500 episodes, 1,000, until you have 1,000
That's right.
subscribers, 10,000, a hundred
That's right.
thousand, until you can show you bring in 100,000 views a year, 1 million a year, 5 million a year. And then it's all this balancing act of favors and asking, can you put in a good word to this person, and you also never know like who's the person that just has the golden ticket in their back pocket. Like
That's
I had
right.
one guy on, we were just talking about, he ran like an esoteric bookshop in Detroit, John Barnwell. He's just the coolest dude ever, just like this old hippie Zen master. And like I did the show, it was great. We hit it off, and he messaged me after. He's like, "Do you want to interview my friend Roseanne?" And I was like, "Roseanne Barr?" And he was like, "Yeah, I know her from back in the." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, but you never know
Wow.
who it is,
Sure.
and so
You
because of
don't.
that, you can't let your guard down. You always just have to be respectful, be
And you
courteous,
have
do a
to
good show.
absolutely, and you have to take risks and you have to grind. I try to tell people, look, there's very few people that can parachute to the top of the mountain,
Yeah,
right, and then ski down the mountain.
yeah,
What I've done here is I've built the freaking mountain. Okay, I own the mountain. So you know, I dropped out of graduate school 20 years ago. 20, it would have been 2004, so that I could go get Laura Ingraham coffee for free and not be paid anything. I was in graduate school. To be an intern on the Laura Ingraham show, you technically had to be in school. So I was in school long enough to get the gig, and then they kept using me, so I couldn't go to school anymore.
yeah.
um, and I had to take a risk, and I was helping with a congressman on Capitol Hill. I was in grad school. I saw this opening for an internship. I was 24 years old. Now, I think I aged pretty well because
I was about to say, how old are you?
I'm 44 now. I
All right.
sleep in the Michael Jackson hyperbaric chamber, so that I don't age. I'm going to freeze my head like Walt Disney when this is
Ed,
over.
Ed
And
Williams.
but I will tell you, can you imagine what I look like at 24? I look like I was like 10. So I still have the same amount of facial hair as then, virtually none.
I'm with Ed. Irish
But
Catholic too. I can't grow shit.
I'm a geriatric millennial. I'm Gandalf. I know. Don't believe this face. This is like the Twilight face. I'm Gandalf the millennial. I'm a geriatric millennial. But in that first day, Ingram, the great lady, she's tough. She was going through chemo at the time, so she's bald. She's got this mannequin head. She loves when I tell this story, by the way. She's got this
I
mannequin
bet.
head. She's got a mannequin head on her desk with a wig on it.
Yeah.
You go in there, and if you're dealing with like Demi Moore and G.I. Jane, don't tell Jada Pinkett I made that joke. I don't want to get slapped. So you're dealing with that, and she's going through chemo. She got like a drainage back. I mean, it's a whole thing.
Sure.
She is a tough cookie. This is not just some fancy woman that showed up at Fox. And my mother's a breast cancer doctor. She's a radiologist, and she did her fellowship training at UVA. And to this day, I always joke with Laura. Laura went to UVA Law School, so there was a connection immediately when she was interviewing me. Didn't ask how old I was because, like I told you, I looked like I was like 6. And I was like from the Munchkin Village, and she hired me. I mean, I became an intern. And I kind of became her personal assistant, where I'm getting coffee and I'm getting, hairspray because she's got to go do this hit or that. And I'm booking guests. The first guest I ever booked was Andy McCarthy, the Fox News lawyer who has since become my client once or twice. I think we worked on his book, Ball of Collusion, which was about Obama.
Mhm.
And, he's a friend. Unfortunately, he's a Mets fan. They just dispatched my Phillies this week. But when she said go book Andrew McCarthy, I'm like, Andrew McCarthy from who? From the John Hughes movies? From the
Yeah.
Brat Pack movie, right? Some Kind of Wonderful and St.
Yeah.
Elmo's Fire. No, a different one. The one that was a federal prosecutor against terrorists in New York. That one. So look, everyone has to start somewhere, right? You fast forward 20 years. Ingram gave me a blurb for my last book. I'm on the phone with her, texting with her all the time. She's like my sister. I became her associate producer 6 months later, her executive producer 6 months after that. I was on the air with her. We grew the show, her radio show, okay, not the TV show, to like almost 400 stations. Traveled the world with her. Had breakfast with Benjamin Netanyahu with her, and
Oh,
many other
man.
things. And she's a friend. She's like a mentor. And then I became Monica Crowley's executive producer as well. And those two women, really, Fire and Ice, they're like my older sisters. They stick their foot up my ass. Um, but getting those two relationships early on, becoming very acquainted with Andrew Breitbart early on.
Hmm.
Um, Andrew used to be a fill-in host on a lot of our shows on the network. I worked at a place called Talk Radio Network, which had Michael Savage and Mancow and Tammy Bruce. Ben Shapiro was my lawyer at the time,
Oh, shit.
which I still bust his balls about. It was he's a lawyer for the network. So look, you just have to sort of, it's kind of like lily pads, and you build the bridge
Hmm.
to the next one and the next one and the next one. And I produced shows for about 10 years. My last gig was I was hired by Beck to oversee the Blaze radio network. So I know what it's like to put shows together,
Yeah.
right? I know what it's like, right? And I've been a fill-in host. I mean, I filled in for Monica. I mean, there were times where Ingram was late to the show for various reasons, where I was hosting the show. And I, from time to time, I have stepped in to produce for fun and fill in for fun even now. So I did that for about a decade. I haven't been doing the PR thing for about 11 years now. I've been doing that. And in the midst of that, doing everyone else's books, promoting organizations from Gun Owners of America to Federalist Society, Freedom Works, all kinds of groups. And, you showcase some of these groups here. I basically said to myself, you know what? I'm going to do a book. And I'm going to do a little different. I'm going to do comedy mixed with tragedy. I'm going to try to reach a different demographic. So, you've got, let me grab you one here. You've got The Woking Dead. And if I didn't send you one of these, I should send you one of these.
No,
This just
I
came out
haven't.
in,
I
yeah, this
haven't.
just came out in paperback. We're mocking the hell out of the left with this. And if you look closely on this, it says Volume 1. Well, Volume 2 is right here. It came out 3 weeks ago. #1 on Amazon. #1 in the political humor category, where I took my Irish Catholic shillelagh out and kneecapped Bill Maher, who I agree with on a lot of stuff and wouldn't mind hanging out with him, from time to time.
Seems cool enough.
I'm not going to smoke weed with him, but I'll drink with him.
Yeah.
And, and some of the people you see on Fox. I mean, I was #1 ahead of Deuce Bigelow and Kat Timpf and Tyrus and, Marr and Gutfeld and so on. And the book goes back and forth because we do shows like this, the book pops. So look, I'm in the mix now, and I'm going to tell you why. No one wants a coach who doesn't or hasn't played the game. Okay? I'm the only one in the media world that's been the host, the guest, the publicist, the columnist, the literary agent to get other people's book deals. Not just myself. Sure, I could get a book deal for myself now in my sleep, but get book deals for other people. Campaigns, basically worked on campaigns. We're helping. We have a, right now, obviously, we're working with RFK Jr. on a super PAC, and we're helping different Trump surrogates as well. We were doing Vivek surrogates. I've got the U.S. Senate candidate in Virginia, Hung Cal, who's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing, amazing superstar. We'll see how purple Virginia is or whether or not it's shot. I live here and I can tell you there is no Tim Kaine signs anywhere. There is no Kamala and Tampon Tim signs anywhere. It's all Trump and hung cow. Trump is hung. Hung is Trump everywhere. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if it's all just a mind F. But you have to have. You're talking about building your show. You have to have those little tiny breakthroughs,
Mhm.
right? It's like, you know, success is an archipelago, right? Where you've got Big Island, Little Island, Big Island, Little Island, and it takes time. And some people, I tell the Candace Owens story. Although Candace is getting hammered now for various reasons. Candace Owens, sort of caught lightning in a bottle. She was able to parachute to the top of the mountain. I don't know whether she's coming down the mountain now, but there's certain times where that happens.
Sure.
But even guys like Alex Jones, guys like Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity was a local radio host in Birmingham, right? So Ingram, was a lawyer, was a speechwriter in the Reagan administration. Then, she clerked for Clarence Thomas. That was one of her moments that shot her
Mm.
up. And I tell her all the time, he trained you, you trained me. Now I train people, right? On the PR side, I have to say, getting Judge Janine's book, her first book, her first sort of political book in the last 10 years. She's done other books, prior to the ones I'm talking about, the most recent three or four. And it's interesting. I got that book because there was a conflict of interest because the PR firm that was supposed to do the book had thrown in with James Comey.
Oh.
Okay. And was repping James Comey's book, his tell all about how, Trump is, in the outhouse wiping his rear end with the Constitution. And so they couldn't do it. So it ended up on my desk. And that led to getting Don Jr. and both of his books. And as they say, it's been a freaking chain reaction since then. So I've had these moments, right? And you will too. And people watching. This isn't just a media circle J here. You will have those moments in life. It could be the birth of a child. It could be the death of a friend. It will change you. It will change you. As long as you don't succumb to depression and get yourself, wrapped up in dumb stuff. You will go through the fire. You will go through trials and tribulation. Sometimes people need religion. Sometimes people do it without religion,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the deity's always there. Whatever deity you want, you could give the deity's got lots of names, but you go through it, and hopefully you can pivot and make the best out of it. Most people don't wake up and as the king. They just
Mm-hmm.
don't. Rush Limbaugh didn't. Donald Trump didn't. It just doesn't happen. So you got to work at it. You got to add pieces. And look, we appreciate shows like this.
Sure.
The more I just think the more people in the sort of media landscape like you, Tommy, I think a rising tide does lift all patriots, and we're fighting globalism, or if we're fighting wokeism, or if we're just trying to be a wise ass like I am and crack jokes. Although I do fight both of those things, and I do it in a unique way with these two books.
I like the idea that success is an archipelago. And it's hard not to get frustrated when you see someone parachute to the top. But
Sure.
ultimately, when you look at someone parachute to the top, whether it's a one in a million thing, or they know someone, or they fuck someone, or ultimately, if you
Wait a
give it
minute. Are
enough,
you talking about the Democrat nominee for president? Who are you
never,
talking about exactly?
I wouldn't do that. I would never do
Oh,
that.
just checking. I just,
I
I
would
just
never.
had a
I would
something
never.
past.
I would never allege that she got her career sucking off someone. That's nonsense. But what you do finally realize is after enough, reflection and being very honest with yourself and trying to be an adult about it, you realize that it doesn't matter what someone else's success was from, whether they worked their ass off or it's because their, dad is a senator or because they,
Sure.
some hawk too. Like ultimately you have to go, none of this changes where I am.
Haktua.
Yeah,
Haktua
no,
for president. That's right.
exactly. But you have
Everyone has
to
to start under a desk somewhere, right? Isn't that what they always say?
precisely. But ultimately you have to accept that no one else's path impacts yours. You have to do that's unfair. Yes, it is unfair. Move forward. How does that get me another guest? Well, he or she did this. Correct. I have to keep going. How does that change my show? How does it
Right.
change my guests? How does it change my itinerary for the coming week? And it sucks because it's so seductive and so appealing to just point at someone else and go, they don't deserve it, and that's why I'm a failure. Hey man, that might feel good in the moment, but what does it ultimately do? That's why they're good and I'm not. Okay, now what? That's why I'm not good.
Right.
Now
And
what?
you don't look, we're, as conservatives or libertarians or populists, you don't want to succumb to the grievance groups that the
Yeah,
left always
I'm
sound like,
owed
right?
something or
Right. I mean, look, half of life is showing up. There's a little bit of luck involved. Some people are late bloomers. They just are. Um, you know, they don't, get the breaks they want. And this is with anything. This could be, making it to the big leagues at age 27, right? Not everyone gets to be, LeBron or Bryce Harper or, Kobe Bryant, where you're coming out of high school and you're almost basically going right into professional sports. It's just, I mean, those are unique situations, um, and that's why they are who they are.
Mhm.
But, you could be part of a dream team without being Jordan. There's a lot of members of that dream team that make it work. Um, I like to think of myself as, I joke around being the center of the MAGA cinematic universe, but I like to think of myself as a talent scout. And I'm trying to collect warriors in this culture war, in this political, warfare against globalists and big government and deep state and so on. So, and not everyone has the same sort of superpower, right? Everyone is going to contribute in a different way. But if we all are contributing at the same time together, um, and we're using whatever weapons we have, like when I do my books, I mean, like I've done Victor Davis Hanson books.
Mhm.
Now, I don't think anyone's going to mistake me and some of the crazy stuff I do and say for Victor Davis Hanson. It's just not going to happen, right? So, but do we not need him? We absolutely need him, right? Like you need Iron Man and Captain America. You need both. Like if you're going to fight, you know, big government Thanos, that's what you need. You need that in your life. So, and look, some people are better at being downstream from politics. I'm trying to reach people a different way through humor and through the culture, and that is definitely Andrew Breitbart's influence on me. I mean, there's a reason Gutfeld is crushing the Jimmies and Steven. Three doughy freaking Gen X dorks that are all singing from the same song sheet, monochromatic jokes,
Mhm.
laziness. Say what you want about Bill Maher, he's not lazy. I mean,
Yeah.
he's taking shots at a lot of different people, right? You may laugh your ass off at one and then hate the next. Good,
Yeah.
good. I mean, that's what comedy's supposed to be. It's supposed to be keeping everyone honest.
Everyone should
It's
hate
supposed to
you.
be keeping everyone in line. You're not supposed to throw in and be like the company man, right? See Howard Stern. Howard Stern's become a company man. I was one of the biggest Howard people on the planet. He and I have the same birthday. In fact, me, him, and Limbaugh all have the same birthday.
No.
And so I was a radio junkie my whole life. I listened to both of them. And, listen to him talk to Kamala Harris about eating freaking Raisin Bran. Man, I don't know what happened, but he's shot. He
Yeah.
is shot. He is totally sold out. He's a company man. He moved out there on Long Island. He's going to P. Diddy white parties, right? He's hanging out in the basement with Billy Joel too long. So he's shot. And it's a shame. It's a shame because he was a culture warrior and he pushed the envelope, you know, of, yeah, what was acceptable for sure. But I mean, nobody was ever going to say Howard was a free speech coward,
No.
but now he is. Howard the coward.
Is that inevitable?
For who? Him?
Anyone? You get to that
No,
big of
it's
a
not
is it
inevitable.
no?
No, not at all. I mean, look at Jones. Look at Bannon. Bannon's in jail for this shit. For this, he's in jail. Navarro went to jail. Um, Jones, they're going to pull apart his company. Tucker got fired. You know, um, and look, I've got clients at Fox. I've got friends at Fox. But I'll tell you, you know, if you're going to kill Tucker, and look, Tucker and Megyn Kelly and Bill O'Reilly, they're all doing fine. They're, in some ways, they're doing better than they were. But, they shot Tucker in front of everyone. They did the red wedding right in front of him,
Yeah.
right in front of everybody. Well, what happens when you shoot the king in front of everyone, in front of all the peasants? When you behead someone in front of the courtesans, in the middle of, the cathedral, in front of everybody? Well, you get trickle down fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to kill the king,
What can they do to you? Yeah.
right, which is why you've had 2 phony impeachments, 4 phony indictments, and 2 assassins on the field. It's to get to us, to trickle down to us. Because if they can get Trump, then they can get us. Right? So if you're going to shoot Tucker, you're going to make everyone autocorrect their language. Maria, Janine, and Laura, and Sean, they're going to start to check Hegseth. They're going to start to check what they're saying and what they're thinking. Now it's an election year. They're doing just fine. Their ratings are fine, but it does help you. It kind of, it gets that thought in the back of your head. Oh, maybe I shouldn't cover this or say it that way or whatever. And obviously, there's some topics that can't. They're not going to get on cable news. Election integrity, vaccine stuff. Not a lot of that. Although, Jesse and a few others cover it. The Five, Gutfeld covers some of this stuff with jokes, which is my preferred route. But, that's the thing, is that a lot of wokeism, a lot of, trying to be color coordinated, and I mean, even right wingers use identity politics to book their shows. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like I could have 2 brilliant authors. One's a heterosexual white guy. One's a gay Jewish guy or an Asian. And they're both millennials or they're both Gen Zers or whatever. I have an easier time getting the black gay guy or the Asian guy or the woman that, is Jewish and an atheist, or black and an atheist, whatever the hell it is. This little sushi menu of
Yeah.
identity horse shit. Okay, I have an easier time
Yeah.
with that person. Right? Like, I've got this guy. I don't want to name his name because he's famous. He looks like an Abercrombie model. He's funny. He's brilliant. Good looking. Got better hair than me, which is hard. And he can't get on certain cable news shows, because he doesn't like dudes, or he's not, doesn't have the right anatomy. That does go on. So, you have to look elsewhere. Because if certain cable news channels are going to do that, that's why Rumble and these other, Real America's Voice and some of these other places, Lindell TV and so on. I mean, they'll put you on. They will definitely put you on. But that's what wokeism's all about, though. It's to put us into our little identity boxes. It's like a little
Hmm.
ice cube trays. Looks like a
Yep.
freaking Benetton ad, right? Sushi menu of all the little groups, and sort of go through the world through the prism of that, of seeing everyone through their sexual orientation or how much melanin they have in their skin.
Hmm.
Um, Conservatism's not supposed to be about that. Populism's not either. I think we fight back. We fight back. But, wokeism is cultural Marxism, where you got the blender and you put identity politics in it, political correctness, cancel culture, you blend it up, right? And then you serve it to the masses. We are trying to make fun of that. Absolutely. Uh, you know, in the White Privilege album, the new book, it's really about defending three things, three things that the left is talking about specifically when they talk about white privilege, check your privilege, or, the patriarchy, or whatever the hell it is. Three things they hate, three things that have to go so that what can be can become unburdened by what has been.
Mm.
Okay? And although that may sound like verbal diarrhea from Kamala, the desk jockey, it's actually a reset statement.
Yeah.
The reset statement, if you really look at it, what can be can become unburdened by what has been. We're going to reset your church. We're going to reset your sexual orientation. We're going to reset your culture. So the goal here, when you hear white privilege, and a lot of this garbage comes out of the humanities departments, is an attack on Western civilization. They
Hmm.
don't like it. And when I say Western civilization, I'm talking about Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian civilization, the
Hmm.
four legs of the stool, right? Not all civilizations are created equal. I'm
Not at
sorry.
all. Don't be
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
They're
This is
not.
why some of them go away. For the same reason Tommy and I can't play on the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team.
Because they're racist against the Irish Catholic.
Well, that's yeah, unless your name's Larry Bird.
Yeah, I
But but
know,
but
right?
but my Chris Mullen. My
Yes.
point though is that you know there is merit involved. There's merit involved in culture. There's merit involved in civilizations. And just understand this: we are not a multicultural country.
No.
We have one culture here. It's Western culture, the most famous, successful culture in the history of planet Earth.
Hmm.
And here's the thing: we are multi-ethnic. You can come here and participate as
Yeah.
long as you do it. As long as you do it legally. The great experiment. The store's open.
Yep.
Don't abuse your privileges. But it's certainly not a white one. Anyone can come here, and many do. I'm sure someone's got an Indian or an Asian doctor somewhere in their life, dentist, something. People come here all the time, and they don't abuse their American privilege, right? So the second thing that the left is after that has to go, because at some point it dawned on Marxism in the United States, National Socialism in the United States, that they weren't going to get an economic revolution like they could get by killing all the Romanovs and becoming the Soviet Union. Like, there's no royal family here to overthrow, and the middle class in the United States prevents the peasant uprising because we have a healthy, big middle class, which is why the middle class has to go. Don't believe
Hmm.
the desk jockey that she's a member of the middle class and she loves the middle class. The middle class has to be destroyed so that we're all peasants. We stand in Tampon Tim's bread line, and he gives us, a turkey for Thanksgiving. He gives us a box of tampons, and he sends us on our way. That's what Tim Waltz will do. Thanksgiving's coming. Hopefully they don't win. So that's what they want. You have to destroy the middle class. Have to destroy it. Has to go. Which is why you get the Green New Deal. Which is why you get Operation Dumbo Drop in Springfield, Ohio, where they dump 20,000 migrants from Haiti, from Haiti, and the Haitian migrants in there. Not just to eat your pets, but also to flood the system with unchecked migrants all over the place. Jimmy Carter brought in people. Bill Clinton brought in different people, the Hmong and the this and the people from the Darfur, and Barack Obama relocated Syrians all over this place, all over. Nobody wants to talk about it. Dropped them into red counties, right? And and that way you've got inflation and you've got unchecked migration. You've got gas prices out the wazoo. You've got $6 eggs. And you could slowly but surely chip away at the middle class and break them. Because that's the goal. Get rid of Western civilization. Right? Look, they were never going to stop with the Civil War statues. Okay? They weren't. They went right on. The Confederate statues are, as soon as Lee was gone, they went for Grant. So don't believe the bull crap on that. So if you can get rid of Western civ, the middle class, these are obviously constructs of white privilege, according to the left, cultural Marxists. The final thing that has to go, absolutely has to go. They hate it. You can't stand these people. Is the nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
Nuclear family has to go. The more children you have, the more breeders you have. These are all carbon. They're all carbon footprints. They can't stand it. Black Lives Matter, put it on their website. Nuclear family is a construct of white privilege. Just underneath of that, they were taking donations for Hamas. They're talking about how much they love Hamas. And that, if they ever get real power, the Jews are history. Right? That's Black Lives Matter. That's their position. And the nuclear family drives them nuts. They don't like it. Which is why they try to replace the father with big government. They have succeeded in certain communities. At a wedlock childbirth rate with African Americans in 1920 was like 10%. And now, 100 years later, it's like 80. It's changing a little bit. Black millennials are more educated. They're not getting divorced as much. And interestingly, they're moving towards the Republican Party. Or at least they're moving towards Donald Trump.
Sure.
Because they're not really buying the race hustlers argument anymore. So that's just it, right? Western civ, middle class, nuclear family, reset everything, become unburdened by what has been, and then they can all have us sitting in our homes, unmarried, childless, can't own a home, interest rates off the charts, they love it, can't start a family. It's actually expensive to get married. I don't know. Didn't seem that expensive in the Old Testament, but apparently it's expensive. It's pretty expensive now to get married. And that's what they want. They want trickle-down wokeism, which equals trickle-down misery.
Mm-hmm.
Trickle-down misery.
Sure.
So that we're all in our homes, childless, unmarried, miserable, listening to Taylor Swift, right? Living with our cats, just like J.D. Vance said, as long as your cat's not on the menu in Ohio, you got your cat, right? And you're good to go. You can just sit there and you can blame white privilege for your problems. You can blame the patriarchy. You can blame toxic masculinity. You can blame Ricky Gervais for his jokes. You can blame Chappelle for making fun of the trans mafia. They'll come looking for you too. You talk too much about them. They will come looking for you. They'll switch prisons. They'll send Tim and Jim into the women's locker room. Your daughter will look up. She's a leadoff batter. Okay? She'll lead off batter. She'll look up. And there's Gary. Gary's now pitching to your daughter.
Renee Clemens.
Fast pitch softball. Gary's standing there. So look, that's what they want. And they can talk about joy. They think you'll love this. You're going to love it. You don't know now. You don't know any better. You can't think for yourself. You're dummies. You need more Kamala. You need more Tampon Tim. And they talk about joy at the DNC. And this audience knows one thing. And it's not a secret. And that is, if there's one thing the Democrat Party was built for, if there's one thing cultural Marxism was built for, it's to suck all joy from you. And I mean all joy. They'll take that hot dog out of your mouth. They'll put a tranny in the bathtub to sell Bud Light. They'll do all kinds of things to take joy from you. Believe me, they'll cancel shows. They'll throw people like Bannon in prison. They'll do any of these things so that they can control you, which is why people like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and Elon drive them insane.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, who do you want to roll with? You want to roll with those three? They were Democrats. They got red pilled. Now they're rolling with MAGA. Remember when Ron Paul was the crazy one? I do.
He's so like lukewarm now compared to 2012.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, yeah.
remember when him and Giuliani were fighting on stage? Now they agree on everything. So the long arc of anti deep state, anti wokeism is bending towards progress, to steal one of the left's favorite stupid lines from, progressive BS. We're winning. We're winning. So do you want to roll with them? Or do you want to stand on stage with the Cheneys? Dick Cheney and drag his daughter. Who do you want to roll with? Right? The McCains and the Romneys and the Cheneys, who Kamala is very proud. If you needed proof
If you needed the guy,
that your
yeah,
politics is just WWE.
Darth Cheney is, I mean, that guy rightfully has been accused of
No, you need to roll with
bringing,
Darth Publius. You roll
yeah,
with Darth Publius. You don't need to roll with Darth Cheney. All right?
at at its core though, what it is it's a you can see that the reason why it's a desecration of all that is joyful and all that is fun is because at its core it's based in self-hatred. When you're based in self-hatred, you want to bring everyone else down because you're not creating on your own. And I get it. I was, I after my brother took his life, I went into such a spiral of anger and depression that you stop going, what can I do? What can I do to, even today, it's like I gotta get, this is episode 1593. I got 194 tomorrow. And it's like, how do we keep moving versus when you're in a real, at least in my own subjective experiences, when you're in a pit of despair, you hate yourself and you hate everyone else. And all you want to do is bring it all down because that's all you have now. Is that demonic possession? Is it just depression? It's probably somewhere in between, but that's what it is. And it's okay to not be on board with that. And I get it. I understand the cognitive dissonance. I'm 34. I've been Democrat and Republican. I get it. And you don't want to admit someone else is right and all that. But at its core, it is, you have to understand, it's a desecration of literally and figuratively all that is holy and all that is fun. And what you said earlier about, what happens when you shoot Tucker in front of everyone, what happens when you kill the king is everyone falls in line to a degree. You can also overplay that hand to where if you walk it out to
Correct.
its natural conclusion, you go, well, if they can do that to him, he can do that to me. And then you start realizing, well, if they can do that to me, what do I care? Go for it. Like they're gonna kill me anyway. Go for it. And
Well,
that
and also, you basically had Tucker to some degree. If he's on Fox, which is a publicly traded company, it has to respond to the FCC.
sure, fiduciary
Um,
responsibilities.
it's a system of Tucker was inside of a system of control.
Yeah.
And who do you think's more dangerous? Tucker in a system of control, or Tucker running around with Jones
On
and
Twitter, just fucking yeah.
interviewing
Yeah.
Putin, doing the road show with Roseanne screaming
Uh-huh.
and everything else? Are you kidding me? Believe me, the genie left the bottle. So, that's it. That's it. You get power. You get outside of the system of control. And there's all kinds of systems of control,
Hmm.
even in the right of center space. Right?
Yeah.
I could talk to you about the publishing world, who can get a book deal and who can't, and why. I already talked to you about how you have two right wingers that, you
Hmm.
know, are just as smart, and one gets on because of identity politics.
Yep.
And, I could talk to you about the PR world. I talked to you a little bit earlier about how I ended up with Judge Janine because certain right of center PR firms threw in with the deep state. They threw in with the Never Trumpers. I mean, how's that working out 10 years later?
Mm.
Look, people made a killing on some of these books. Don't get me wrong. But at what cost? Because you basically allowed me, Darth Publius, to rise to the top here. And I am pumping out more content from all my people, and you see it. The audience doesn't even realize how many guests, either directly or tangentially, on this show have come from our
a massive
content,
amount.
our content engine. So look, all right, you want to turn us loose? Turn us loose. See what happens. I dare you.
And that is kind of and then what you really don't want to do from a power perspective, you don't want to be uncool. You know, I mean, you think of
Nope.
like Mighty Ducks or something. I'm from New England. Think about, like 2004 Red Sox. You have like the Yankees who, they're all male model trillionaires. And then you have the Red Sox who they all have like long beards and they look half retarded.
Dirtbags.
Yeah, and then plenty of them are. As a New England Irish Catholic, I'm telling you, they're me and they are stupid.
Dustin Pedroia. I mean, some of these guys,
But what you
Veritek.
don't, but what you don't want to do is if you're in power, you don't want the enemy to start looking fun. That's the
That's
thing is
true.
when you're yeah, there's no dress
That's
code,
true.
you have a long beard. That's when you start to lose. That's in every movie, the Mighty Ducks, you have like the Iceland Nazis versus like the dudes. What you don't want to do is when it starts to look more fun to be like, yeah, man, just have a beer, relax. That is the final
Well,
thing.
but that's
And
how we. But that's how we. Trump
well, that's
obviously
how we
was one
win. No,
of.
no, no. I'm looking at it
That's
from
how
the
we
point.
win. We
Yeah,
become
yeah.
the counterculture icons,
Oh, I know. What I'm saying
right?
is
We become gangster rap. We
yeah.
become steampunk. We become the goth kids. We become the cat. We're Jesse James. We're Tupac, right? We're Reagan in '76 taking on Ford. Okay, I mean Trump came down the golden escalator and he ended the McCains. He ended the Romneys. He put Jeb Bush in a blender, right? He put them all in there. The heroes that were captured, the heroes that weren't captured. He put them all in there. Took out Hillary, the most unlikable woman in 100 years. Dunked on Obama. Just basically in that first debate, put a freaking toe tag on Joe Biden. So, he's got one last dragon to slay. And, I think he will. So let's see what happens.
No, I think you're right, and that's the problem is when Rage Against the Machine is requiring vaccine passports. Hey man,
Wow.
you're losing the
Yeah.
thread. And I'm
And Van Morrison isn't.
yeah.
Eric Clapton and Van Morrison say no, Rage Against the Machine. They became company men.
Yeah,
They be, I
it's
mean, they become.
it's
That's exactly what happened,
it's
right? They all threw in.
yeah.
They're all artists and this and that, and they're counterculture, this and that. It's all BS. They threw in with these people. They throw
Hmm.
in on crap like Ukraine. They hated the Iraq War, but they love Ukraine. Now, I think both of those things were
They're all
dumb,
dog shit.
right? But it's an amazing thing when you sort of expose the fault lines of hypocrisy from these dummies.
Yeah, and it's yeah, and so I mean, I think, and maybe to wrap it up, we can keep going if you want. But as I'm gonna say, I have a friend who's named Laura. I know her from college. I love her. She and I could not be more like polar opposite. Like like vegan, hip, like everything about it. But I love her. She's a kind soul, and she put out a video yesterday, and she is like the fact that saying people in Appalachia aren't getting enough support is a right wing talking point. Is she's like, it's despicable to my soul. And she goes, and I'm telling you this. And she literally, her cat's walking around. She goes, a liberal lesbian cat lady with pit hair. I'm saying the government is fucking over these people in Appalachia, and this is
Sure,
despicable. To me,
sure.
that is like hell freezing over. I've known her for about 15 years. Truly could not be like more of a polar opposite person than me. And she's going out of her way
Well,
to say this is this. So my point is that's
sure.
an
She's
iceberg.
being she's being intellectually honest. We
No,
need
she
more,
is. It's
and we need more people like that. And hopefully we can start to connect dots. What
mhm.
happened in the Hawaii fire could
And
be similar to
that's what
what's
she brought up. She's like,
right.
what is that?
So and you start, and back when Katrina happened, and all of a sudden half of New Orleans was being sold off to multinational corporations when all these African Americans were underwater. I mean, at the time, a lot of conservatives were defending George W. Bush and this and that, but it looks as much a land grab as some of these other things.
Hmm. And it's
So listen, I've got to
yeah,
roll,
yeah.
brother. But
We'll
listen,
wrap it up, dude.
yeah,
I'd love to have you on again, guys. You can find the link to the book in the description. I'll send this to you in email. I'd love to have you on again, man. It's nice to finally chat with you. You've done so much for the show, and I legitimately from the bottom of my heart or the top of my heart, where the fuck you want to call it, thank you. I
Well, I
genuinely appreciate
appreciate
what
it.
you've done and what you continue to do. And anyone that watches this show and likes this show, you should also be grateful for AJ. So you're a real one, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man. Pick up a copy of the White Privilege album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides. I know we've got a bunch of very fine people in this audience, and as I was saying before, Irish guys like us, we got to stick together, get the shillelaghs out for election day. We'll be ready to go.
We'll do it. Guys, please go grab a copy of the book. Show AJ some love. I'll send you this episode. Gonna have you on again. Dude, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, brother.
Yes, sir. Guys,